YouTubers, streamers, they are just getting exposed one after the other. By the time this video comes out, there's probably going to be another one. Shame on you, Anthony Fantano.
Jesus Christ. I've been excited to watch this video. I've waited a bit. I've waited a bit to watch it, but I thought it'll be good. Because this is a question I get a lot that I typically answer. People have a hard time taking the answer. Why is it so hard for influencers not to like minors? I'm excited to watch this. I think it would be good. Gerbert Johnson typically does some good vids. I like him. So I'm curious to see what he's got to say about this topic, about this very pressing topic in today's world, okay?
Pedophiles.
Why the fuck is he wet? Why is he wet?
They have a pretty notorious reputation, but what's going on here?
What if it's the minor's fault? That's a great question that very few people are willing to ask. What if it is?
These cursed souls want nothing more than to engage with the youth. And not in a positive way, in a pretty freaky way, mind you. Why pedophiles are bad. Fully grown, mature adults are more attractive than adolescents. This means that their attraction to children...
Wait, what was that? It says usually? Usually?
This means that their attraction to children is probably some sort of messed up power dynamic to feel true control and to inflict pain. There are 3 types of predators that I have identified in my years of research. The first is your everyday... common predator, found amongst the everyday people, your local community, that one disturbed fella, you know, that just lets it all loose.
In my opinion, there's 2 kinds of quote-unquote creeps, okay? There's the actual pedophile, okay? Somebody who is like, they have some kind of like paraphilia where they are attracted to children. And when I say children, I mean like people before pubescence, you know? And then there's like the creep / predator, who's not technically a pedophile, but we call them that for the sake of just putting it across the board. So everybody understands what's being said, basically, you know, which these words probably shouldn't be conflated, but they are. And that is the kind of guy that like, so for Cody Ko, for example, someone who's like 25 and he fucked a 17-year-old Tana Mojo. Technically, is he a pedophile? Isn't someone who's attracted to children? No, but he did prey on someone who was too young for him to prey on. Because Tana Mojo, technically at that point, was like physically mature to the point that she could have been an adult, quote unquote, but her age and her inexperience is the reason why we would call him a predator or a creep, right? So this is the dichotomy.
It's hard to know how many...
He posted on Instagram? Did he actually? Cody Ko? Where? I don't think he did. His last post is from 15 weeks ago. I think you're capping.
Any of these guys really exist, but you can be sure that they're out there lurking for some primo. These youth seekers are not only located amongst your local community, but also the highest echelons of our political and financial institutions. Unfortunately for hardworking Americans, it appears that a lot of them seem to be concentrated up.
I feel like Gokanai was an innovative commentator to counter that last video, but he got blown out of the water by H3. How the fuck did he get blown out of the water? Sorry about the Flace Fire video. You don't have to apologize. I like watching videos like that I disagree with. That's fine. I don't care. You don't need to apologize. That's fine. You're good, bro. If you find a video that like is like critical of something, like some position I've held or like something I've done, and you like want me to watch it, I might actually watch it. Like that is like, it's good content for me to like be challenged on the kind of content I make and my beliefs. Like that is good. It's interesting. His to be clear, his video as a video, it's good. I disagree with it, but as like the existence of a video where he like formulates a point and like represents a common sentiment that a lot of people agree with, it was a good video in that aspect. And so I'm glad that I got to like respond to that video. You know, it was interesting. That makes for some of the best content, I would argue. So I'm glad you sent that to me.
There, a disturbing amount, truly.
Why is Jimmy Fallon there?
Even Stephen Hawking was on the Epstein list. His ass can't even walk, and he's still jonesing for some fresh. I mean...
Bro, there was some shit I heard about Stephen Hawking on Little St. James, which I don't think was even true. But someone claims that Stephen Hawking... because he can't get hard, obviously, because he's like paralyzed, right? He can't get hard. Somebody had claimed that Stephen Hawking would go to Little St. James and he would watch... the most enjoyable, pleasurable thing for him to do was to watch midgets do complex math on a whiteboard that they cannot reach and have to stand on stools to do. I thought that was fucking insane. I don't think it was true, but that was like the most hilarious thing I'd ever heard in my life. That was like the most base thing I'd ever heard in my fucking life. I liked that. I actually thought that was really good. I wish it was true, but I think it was proven fake. Yeah, but I wish it was true.
I mean, that's just so ridiculous. Honestly, it's kind of inspiring. I guess it shows you if there's a wheel, there's a way. But yeah, rich people seem to really like kids. Let's get a word from my sponsors. You know, when that CBD be hitting, you start acting foolish.
Why is this guy doing like a PG Cumby thing?
You ever tried these 5 gummies? Have you moving different? The reason.
All right, I need to skip past whatever this is. This is too dark for me. I can't let the CBD gummies be on my screen.
The rates of child chasers are alarmingly high. Online content creators, influencers.
I would argue they're not actually that high. I would argue there's very, very few pedophiles in the world, and there's very few predators. And I would even argue that a relatively low amount of influencers are predators / pedophiles / have been caught for some kind of like sexual impropriety. I think it just stands out in your mind when you hear about this kind of person. It really sticks out in your mind, especially if you're watching commentary channels where you're going to see that kind of stuff. You have to remember, there's thousands and thousands of content creators, the majority of which have never been caught for anything even close to that. I turned on game chat because devs boast now our AI will ban bad actors. Turned it on in Grand Theft Auto. Instantly heard some guy ranting he's a PDF file and loves peeking up his 10-year-old sister's skirt. Turned it off. Wow. I will say there is one, if it is slightly higher in the population of YouTubers, I would guess that it is because of like people being too online and like porn addiction and general gooning leading them down like a degenerate rabbit hole. That's what I would guess. But even if it is slightly higher, I don't think that it's like the general population. There's like 0.01% of people are pedophiles, and then for YouTubers it's like 10%. I would guess it's still like it's like 0.2 or but obviously online, especially in communities where like you have potentially a large child audience, those kinds of people can be attracted to that kind of thing, or just, you know, come out and be exposed for it. Another thing that I would say is that for a lot of these people who are like, you know, creeps colloquially speaking, but not technically a pedophile, is not attracted to children. I think a big reason why you have these cases where like a 21-year-old is like getting involved with like a 16-year-old, like somebody who's like 2 years under the acceptable age that they could be involved with. I would guess that's probably because, I mean, big shocker, YouTubers are probably not the guys getting the most pussy in high school, okay? I mean, like if you had to guess, typically the average YouTuber that you watch, you know, they spend a lot of time in their room making videos and they're not getting a lot of female attention. And so when they do get popular on YouTube and they get this flood of female attention for the first time, a lot of it is from people who are too young for them to talk to them, and they give into that kind of thing, which is not a good thing to do. It's not a justification, obviously. But I think that is a lot of it, honestly. I think that is a lot of it. I think it's still gross. Obviously it's gross. It's not a justification. It's very gross. I'm just saying, I think that's a lot of it. I think that's a decent amount of it. Or like, look at someone like Chris Tyson, right? So like someone like Chris Tyson. Is Chris Tyson physically attracted to like 9-year-old? Well, Chris Tyson's a lolicon. That's kind of a bad example. There's got to be something else. There's got to be some other example. Okay, actually, I can use the Chris Tyson example in a different way. So one of the interesting things to me about the Chris Tyson situation is there was no like, so typically when you think about a pedophile, you think about a creep specifically grooming a specific child for the purpose of like getting nudes or sex or stuff like that, right? That's typically what you think about when you think about a pedophile. With Chris Tyson, that was actually not happening. Instead, what was happening is Chris Tyson was such like a porn addicted degenerate that they in their mind somehow didn't think it was irregular or weird to be sending like weird porn and making sexual jokes around people who were far too young, right? Like Chris Tyson is like a case where there was no specific instance seemingly where Chris was trying to meet up with a young child for sex. Instead, it was like Chris had this like community of people on Discord that were too young for them to be friends with, too young for them certainly to be sending the kind of stuff they were sending to them. But it wasn't like Chris was like, hey, look at my dick. Or like, hey, let's meet up and fuck, right? It wasn't that kind of thing. It was like a slow erosion of morals throughout Chris's life to the point that they thought it was okay to send a weird pornography around a bunch of people who were way too young to see that shit, right? Like it's like a very interesting kind of thing. Whereas Doc seemingly was having some kind of, you know, other thing going on where he was specifically talking to one child, making sexual jokes with them, you know, talking about stuff that skirted the line of being inappropriate that he shouldn't have entertained, you know, in his words, whatever. It's kind of a different, it's kind of, there is like, I'm not saying one is worse than the other or one is better than the other. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is like, they're kind of different weird motivations for what was going on, you know? Jesus Christ. The spamming. All right, we're gonna keep watching.
YouTubers, streamers, they are just getting exposed one after the other. By the time this video comes out, there's probably going to be another one. Shame on you, Anthony Fantano.
Jesus Christ.
Unlike traditional celebrities or elite, it's unlikely that there is a larger conspiracy going on here. It's not part of some black...
Right, it's not like a shadowy cabal. It's not, it's, you know, there's no group chat of like YouTube pedos, at least I assume.
Mail. They're not going to the Illuminati. They're not getting into the Bohemian Grove. These guys are just doing it for the love of the game. You would think by now, with the amount of people getting exposed, the decades of precedent we have now with To Catch a Predator, and now all these people constantly getting video essays made about them, you'd think maybe these people would stop and say, hey, maybe this isn't the best idea. Maybe I should just wait it out, or alternatively just not. I mean, even if...
But the weird thing here is that, like, a lot of, like, Chris Tyson probably to this day doesn't even realize they did anything wrong, right? And same with Doc. I mean, he realized there was something wrong at one point, and then he walked it back to save his career, so he's a bad example. But, like, with a certain amount of people, it seems like they don't even realize that what they're doing is wrong, which is not an excuse for their actions, but it is just like a weird peer into their psyche. Like, how could you be at the point where you think that it is normal to send a shadbase.com link into a Discord server of 14-year-olds? But it is, like, for some reason, their morality, their whatever, their, like, standards for how, like, behavior should be has eroded so deeply that they think it's fine, which is really weird. It's really weird. And that's why they seem to not be, like, realizing, like, oh, this is going to bite me back in the future, you know? Because you would think on some level that Chris Tyson, with the high profile that, you know, she and prior to that he had, there would have been some kind of, like, oh, even if I am like a creepy fuck or I'm doing something weird, I'm going to get exposed for this at some point, so I shouldn't do it. But Chris, for some reason, didn't realize that, which in my opinion shows that they for some reason didn't think there was anything wrong with what they were doing, you know?
If they really like the idea of a 17-year-old, their protective mechanisms should stop them from pursuing. But
exactly.
That doesn't happen.
Like
they
self-preservation.
keep on gunning for youngins. I mean, at this point, I don't care if she looks like prime Adriana Lima and she turns 18 in a week and she's messaging me really being flirty. I'm gonna start to do the cost benefit analysis, and I'm gonna go, hey, it's not worth it. You would think these guys would think the same thing, but they don't. And after looking at all of these cases, especially recently, of these online predators, I have started to notice some very sinister connections that I wanted to share with you today. Welcome to an examination of...
Who the fuck was that? What was that?
...of online figures that can't seem to abstain from grooming minors in what is the most oversaturated topic on the internet right now. And this idea is very uninspired, but I'm going to try to tackle it in a unique way and make it funny and informative.
I like that the text is at an angle now, moving in front of him. That's funny.
But I don't know, be sure to like, subscribe, and send me hot pictures if you're over 18 only, please. And play this video in multiple tabs on 0.25 speed to boost my retention analytics. If you're a young person out there, be safe because they be lurking. I'll probably have to think of a better title later. I'm going to go ahead and go over some of the more prominent cases in order to establish these connections that will allow us to determine why is it so hard not to like minors as an online figure. Eat dat pussy 445. What's to be said about him? He was a scholar. He was a statesman. He tried to meet up with what he thought was a 13-year-old girl.
Coming out here to pick up a cupcake.
Not once, but multiple times. He didn't learn. He kept his...
In my opinion, EDP seems like a case of, like, the classic, like, pedophile by definition. Like, somebody who's actually attracted to children. Like, when the girl's 13, right? Like, this girl is not, like, a developed physically human being, right? Like, in my opinion, he is, like, the classic, like, pedophile definition.
His eyes on the prize. That's one thing you could say about it. And in this case, the chat logs with a 13-year-old girl are very wild and perturbing. He sends a picture of his dookie. He took an absolute...
That was the funniest thing. That's how you instantly knew it was him, by the way. Like, when I was reading about this situation when it was coming out, and I remember Critical being like, at this point, he sent a picture of his shit. I was like, okay, he's guilty. No further analysis needed. That's how you know it's him, because nobody posing as EDP would send a picture of their shit. Only he would do that. Only he in particular would send a picture of his own shit, because that's his sense of humor. That's what he likes.
Growler turned around, snapped a picture of it, and sent it over with the caption, "Just took a mean ass shit."
It's so
hey man,
awesome.
Come on. If sending a picture of your dookie to a minor is illegal, you may as well throw me in the gulag, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, by the way, chat, here's a rule. If you spam me with the same thing 30 times, you are going to get banned, okay? It's going to happen, okay? This has always been a rule. The rule is being across the board now. If you spam me with the same exact thing in chat 30 fucking times, it's over for you, okay? Let it be known. It's 1994 in this bitch.
What we can glean about EDP from his videos is that he lived in Bakersfield, California, which is a shithole, and he worked mostly
That's where corn came from.
blue-collar, service-type jobs. He seemed like a pretty lonely guy.
Bro, I live a very lonely fucking life, man. Nobody wants to, like, ever talk to me. Like, they're always just busy doing shit.
But if you recall correctly, EDP first blew up off of a single video which became a little bit meme-ified, in which he said, quote, "I beat the out of my so god hard that I can't feel my left leg." Assuming he was telling the truth, then he must have been whacking off with an almost inhuman amount of velocity and strength.
Oh. Well, this is a Gerbert Johnson video, so I guess it makes sense that this would have something to do with, here we go, porn addiction. Which I think there are valid points to be made there, but it would make sense to me that that's kind of the angle he's going to be taking. That's, it's kind of a, kind of a channel staple, but he probably has a point.
You know, in truth, I would say a good portion of his content was about beating off. He had a comprehensive ranking of stars.
Would you guys consider jacking off to be a sport? I'm gonna jack off so motherfucking hard tonight. I'm gonna stroke my mother. I'm gonna take it up in my ass. I really haven't slept in about like 2.5, maybe 3.
It is kind of crazy. I remember the existence of that video where he could name like 200 porn stars or something. And like, if you just think about that, if you think about like the idea that somebody watches porn enough that they can name like 200 of their favorite stars. Like if you can name like 10, you're probably over the limit, right? You're probably over the limit for a lifetime of gooning. But like being able to name like tens, 100, 200 is like insane. Like it's a crazy streak he was on. And that was a lot of his, like a lot of the conversations he had were about masturbation and about how much he loved it and how much he was doing it. And also, I mean, just other gross shit too, like, shit and stuff like that. But it is kind of crazy that was, a lot of his content, not even like a small joke here and there. It was like entire videos, like the time I jerked my dick so hard that my spleen fell out of my asshole and fell on the floor, and Chris Tyson came in the room and ate it and said, yummy.
3 fucking days, and the only thing I've really been doing was jacking off.
Chris Tyson of Mr. Beast fame has come under a lot of scrutiny recently. The latest development, over 500,000 leaked messages came out from a Discord server Chris was on. A lot of these don't look too good. 500,000. And a good chunk of those are being sexually inappropriate towards adolescents. At that point, you might as well be the Mr. Beast of pedophilia. Woo, unzips pants, nuzzles, ween. That's pretty
bro, the roleplay messages were fucking hilarious. They're crazy.
funny if you're not talking to a kid. The NSFW channel.
True. It is funny if you're not talking to a kid. You're right. Bro, the Not Safe for Work channel, that was just, once again, on another level. It's such a bad idea to just have a Not Safe for Work channel on any Discord server, in my opinion. It's just such a fucking, it's such a liability. It's such a liability for like a multitude of reasons.
From this Discord was never leaked.
I got
but
paid
we
today.
do
Here you
have
go. Thank
good
you, bro.
evidence
Appreciate
that
it.
He put his nude pictures on there.
I actually disagree with that. I don't think there is good evidence he put his nude pictures there. I think he was joking here from what I remember. He did send like porn, like cartoon porn and stuff, which is really weird. Obviously, it's not good, but I don't think Chris sent his own nudes in that server ever. I don't think that was ever a specific claim that anybody made.
All of these kids are in the server. Chris was generally very into Loli. He enjoyed touching his Peter to this quality of media. Which brings us to the question, what is a Loli?
Oh, no.
Well, to answer this question, you have to take it over to a little island in the east called Japan. And over here in this island, there's people there.
There's people there. Lots of good people. Good cars. They make good cars. Lots of good art. Anime. I love anime.
But let's just keep it real. There's some freaky fucks. They came up with some very cool stuff, with some strange stuff as well. And then the white boys got a hold of it, and now we're cooked. We could the Caucasoid mind wasn't built to handle it. And now they're watching this stuff, and
Bro, the waifu guys are fucking hilarious. They're just there used to be so many good pictures of these fuckers. Who is that one guy I covered in fuck, I didn't mean to skip to the end here. What was that one thing I covered in my, in my 4chan Degenerates video? What was his name? I did not get paid today. Well, thank you for the 10 regardless. Appreciate it. Big ups. It was this Mad Thad. Yeah, fucking Mad Thad. Mad Thad is hilarious. I mean, that guy is a fucking freak, but Mad Thad, the videos, is it, how do I spell it again? Mad Thad 808. Thaddeus. You can't even find it when you look it up. Hold on. The 4chan Degenerates. Mad Thad was in here. Mad Thad is a fucking legend. Yeah, here we go. This guy.
But some people take their preoccupation with imaginary women a tad bit further than others. Take the case of Thaddeus.
Yeah, this guy. This guy was like some spurg on 4chan who had like an underage waifu that he was obsessed with, and then big shocker, turned out he got exposed for doing some weird shit. And I think he was charged and went to jail. Yeah, he made a video, Tokyo's virtual child porn bill and Funimation dance in the Vampire Bund edits. It was like, this is like him raging against censorship of lolicon. Watched a bit of You and the Dog Girl, True Love. Lol. Driving for Jeff Bezos, looking at chat, bald, gooner. Based. Shout out, Jeff. Yeah, this shit is just, you know, the waifu pillows have got to stop. This is a territory that we cannot allow to permeate our world.
The Caucasoid mind wasn't built to handle it. And now they're watching this stuff, and yeah, there's no recovery. By now, we all know about anime. We all know about animated pornography, which is hentai. What a loli is it's one of these characters drawn in an erotic manner that's a child. Now, philosophers have been debating for generations the ethics of lolicon. A very good point brought up by Hume, I believe, is that a lot of these characters canonically are actually a lot older, although they are illustrated to be 10 years old, let's say. They're like vampires that within the lore of the universe are like 800. These are actual discussions that are happening on the internet now, and you know, if I'm gonna weigh in,
bro, anytime I've talked about like someone getting exposed for loli, those people are so passionate. You see so many of them in chat, dude. Like when I went over, there was some VTuber I went over that got exposed for that shit. And everybody was like, it's just not real, bro. It's like, okay, well, you know, if someone was jerking off to drawings of, you know, gay porn, you would probably say that they're gay, right? Why can't we not apply that standard anywhere else? You know, am I saying that they have molested a child and are an offender that needs to be in jail? I mean, not necessarily, but you know, the shit they're into, I think it's quite obvious.
Personally, when people start to bring in the lore in order to defend beating off to erotic cartoons of children, you begin to understand that this is the end, right? There's no coming back from this. We have too many excess young men, and all throughout history, these type of guys would have gone to war and died, and I'm beginning to think that's a good thing. These type of guys, there's too many of them. They need to be in the front lines. They need to kill and be killed. Back to Chris Tyson, very into loli.
I know he's kind of joking there, but there is like a point to be made about the fact that, you know, I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm the most masculine guy in the world. You know, I'm the most base chud Chad in the world, but like there is this phenomenon of, I feel like very purposeless dudes who exist and have no like motivation for anything and just constantly subsist off of like escapism and drowning themselves in like media and culture and have no roots in the real world. And as a result, they feel like they have nothing to live for and they're all depressed stoners and shit like that. And I think that, you know, I'm not saying war is a good thing, but the one benefit of war is it's like a common uniting force that everybody in the country has to unite for to like achieve a common goal. You finally feel a sense of community, you know. The most impressive growth period for the United States came after World War II. You know, World War II ended in 1945, and then from the 50s until about 2000, you had like the most amazing revolutions in technology. We went to the fucking moon. The CIA subverted foreign governments. You know, there was some serious swag going on for the United States and the American Empire during that time period, but it only came after, you know, multiple world wars, a ton of turmoil, a ton of hardship. I mean, there's that phrase. What is that phrase? Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. You know, I think there is some validity to that kind of thing, which is why me and all of my chat are going to war if there's a draft. We're all going, chat.
He couldn't get enough of it. There was this one artist in particular he enjoyed. I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to give any attention in that direction, but Chris constantly tweeted at him, pulled it up on stream on accident. He had a picture of this guy's art.
The funniest thing about Chris is his explanation that like, I wasn't even a fan of Shad. It's like, bro, you're fucking, you have him on your wall. You're pulling up his website on stream. You're replying to him on Twitter constantly. Like, that's not something you're just a casual fan of as like a joke, right? Like there is far more. There is far more than like one instance of you replying on Twitter. That clearly communicates that you were, you know, a super gooner fan of Shadman.
In his room, just like plastered on the wall. It's in a Mr. Beast video. Chris admitted to refreshing this artist's page daily. He linked it in the Discord I was talking about. So suffice it to say, another high-ranking member of the Beater Brigade. Maybe you're beginning to notice a bit of a pattern here. Next up is Yandere Dev, also known as Alex Mahan. He developed a game called Yandere, I don't know how you say it, Yandere Simulator. Where basically
it's
you play
Yandere
a
Dev.
Japanese schoolgirl.
Yandere
Remember
Simulator.
what I said. And you run around, you start killing a bunch of bitches. And then a part of the plot in the game, apparently, is you get down and you take pictures of these girls' skirts. So, yeah, take that into consideration, and then look at the way his face is, the way
He kind of looks like me, to be honest.
he looks, and sometimes you know what comes out about a person isn't so surprising. And with this guy, there's a lot of weird.
The destruction.
There's like a whole ass saga with this dude. If you go back to forums he was on as a teenager, he identifies himself as an agoraphobic incel. He was homeschooled in middle school. He started homeschooling, and
he was like the definition of incel, seemingly. Like what's that one where he's like he took some picture of himself. He took like a profile shot. It was like this angle and then like this angle. He was like posting them. He was like, "This is why I'll never get a girlfriend." He was like scientifically deconstructing his entire life, his entire physical appearance, and blaming that on everything. And then ultimately he got caught sending weird messages to a minor. So, you know, there you go. Not the most shocking thing in the world. Not the most shocking thing in the world of all time, you know?
And since then, he basically didn't leave the house and just watched anime, played video games, and gooned all day. He filled this void of social isolation with media. A lot of his early forum posts certify his position as...
Speaking of the editor, I'm able to get an animation in 3P editor that I can't seem to recreate in actual gameplay. Specifically, is the animation noted in the editor as dual foreplay, where the girl on top, AOI in my edited run, is eaten out by the girl on the bottom, Manaka. In the game proper, dual foreplay incites the girl to finger each other, an animation noted in the editor as lesbic play. Is there any way to generate the girl on girl stuff in the main game? Thanks. What the fuck? Certified gooner, bro. Is gooning once a week bad? Any more than 0 is far from where you need to be.
As a confirmed gooner. More recently, in his adult life, he has been caught trying to solicit nudes from underage girls over the internet. You'll see later that this guy is like the pinnacle of all the connections I draw in this video. Some of his messages are pretty funny too. He's talking to this
This one was hilarious. This one was fucking awesome, dude.
16-year-old girl over Snapchat going, "You're emotionally abusing me. You have this huge blackmail over me." And she goes, "You're 35. I see he was trying to pull off some gaslighting, some manipulation, but this is some real amateur work. Total amateur hour. That's why he was trying to go for minors, because maybe they're a little bit more gullible. Up your game, homie." Colleen Ballinger, aka Miranda C.
What did she do? I don't even remember what she did. She sent like panties to someone, I want to say. Like she sent panties to like a young fan or something. And then I know she did the ukulele thing after, but I don't remember specifically what she did. It was something along those lines.
There's a lot here, from sending panty pics and actual pornography to minors. There are all these group chats where she's talking with kids and they're having an innocent conversation, and then out of nowhere she just drops some weird sexual shit, and a lot of suspicious things went on at her live shows. Some of these pictures from the live show are just twisted. I don't even know if I can show them. She also had a very...
Wait, did that actually happen? What the fuck?
Live shows. Some of these pictures...
Is that a kid putting his hand on her pants? What the? I didn't know that happened. She had negative boundaries with her fans. Wasn't a pedo, but she talked sex with her fans, sent panties, and she in general treated them like her adult friends. Okay. Jesus Christ, I didn't even know this happened. What the hell?
From the live show are just twisted. I don't even know if I could show them. She also had a very strange vernacular. She would just refer to certain verbs as...
I hate when the dish sponge has been sitting in the sink a little long and that nasty, moist, foul stench rapes my hands. All right, cookies, go follow at Harvey Gillen. He's hilarious. You should all rape him with love. What the hell? Forced love allegations.
Which is strange. And also she would use as an adjective, kind of to replace like sick or cool. You go like, that's Jakishi.
That's porn? What the hell? That's porn. That is weird.
Just shows like one
Who the hell is
Minecraft person.
Jakishi?
If you look at any of them, there's like a 15% chance they have grooming allegations. It's actually insane. They can't stop. You know, they really like mining. They're mining for miners. Hunger Games.
Dude, he should have played the Mr. Girl song. The Mr. Girl song is crazy. We'll just play a couple seconds from the Kanye cover.
You're playing Minecraft in the cave looking for diamonds. That's funny. I'm in the same cave looking for miners. Cause my sexual attraction to miners is major.
Can't even play hopscotch without popping a rager. Always been a pervert, so I accept the insults. When I was a kid, I fucking molested adults. So she one head, dead, wing and moist, hypocritical. Just a little sample right there. The song is fire. It's too bad he's a creep, but the song is hilarious. You know, I don't think you can deny it. That's some serious Hobson swag right there.
I wanna win, I win it all. I wanna win it all day. I'm not teaming, I like my girls underage. But yeah, Jakishi, he's a self-proclaimed cat boy, a self-proclaimed weeb. And right when his career was starting, he got accepted into like the Dream SMP, and then 40 people came out in 1 week saying he was grooming them. Those are some good numbers. You know, it was happening over Discord. He was asking for nudes and stuff from kids. That's a CP charge. That's not good. Yeah, I'm done. I have other examples, but I'm done talking about them. I want to move on with this video. There's so many online figures. They just can't stop. But let me get to the point. Generally, these types follow some pretty specific patterns. The first thing has to do with the types of personalities the internet might implicitly attract. The types of people who
like me, listen to me, hire me, watch me, look at me, agree with me, accept me.
Would think of trying to be internet famous. By looking at this sample group, we may be selecting for types of people who are more likely to have narcissistic or antisocial personality traits. And looking back at some of these people I talked about, or other examples, sometimes you could just tell they have a little bit of a screw loose from the get. And they may feel a little bit empty or...
Dude, her look is crazy. Didn't she get like a Netflix show? The look that she has here is absolutely insane.
Or immune to consequences. The second connection, the second thing I'm seeing a lot of is...
What is the definition of narcissism, actually? Because I feel like I need to have a better understanding of what this even... Let's see here. Narcissism is a personality style that can range from normal to abnormal and is characterized by an excessive focus on oneself and one's own needs. Narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, is a mental health condition that's a more severe form of narcissism that can significantly impact a person's social and occupational foundation. Grandiosity. People with NPD may have an exaggerated sense of self-importance and overvalue their own accomplishments. Need for admiration. Excessive need for attention and admiration from others. Lack of empathy. Lack the ability to understand or care about the feelings of others. Inappropriate emotional reactions. Inappropriate emotional reactions to criticism. Defense mechanism of contempt. People with NPD may feel threatened by people who are confident or popular and may use contempt as a defense mechanism. Okay, so like general jealousy. And has a comorbidity with other psychiatric illnesses. What are the comorbidities? I've been chuffing cigs all week in your honor. That's a bad idea. What are the comorbidities? Comorbidities of NPD. Like, what else are you likely to have? Personality disorders like antisocial, histrionic, borderline, schizotypal, and passive-aggressive personality disorders. Come associated with substance use, bipolar, depression, anxiety, anorexia, and PTSD. Yeah, I guess that all makes sense. Interesting. Seems many of them are made instead of born from trauma. Hard pill to swallow.
Isolation. So these people who are able to find a career on the internet become chronically online.
And the narcissism is also reinforced, right? Because you're isolated in an echo chamber. You don't have to react or interact with the outside world. Technically, if you want, you know, the more spend you time inside, the more terminally online you are, the more benefit you get from it. You know, in the immediate anyway, in terms of like the positive benefits in terms of like money and subscribers and stuff like that and clout, quote unquote. So it's all just like a reinforcing cycle.
Because their whole life now becomes the internet.
Like I think the easiest trap to fall into as like a creator is like just getting high on your own shit, getting high on your own supply, because you see a chat of people, or you see a comment section of people who are like, oh my god, I love you so much, you can never do anything wrong, I love you so much, and like you let that get to your head and you let that like affect your ego to think that you're like the swaggiest guy ever, but really you're not. Surrounded by sycophants who only compliment you. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the kind of audience you have. It really does. I think that for certain people though, especially if you're like a children's entertainer, like someone like Dream, right? The sycophants are crazy. And to be clear, Dream is innocent of any allegation. There was no proof or anything. No substantial proof. So Dream's innocent. But what I'm saying is, like, if you're a child entertainer, the amount of people in the audience who are like critical thinkers are going to call you out or criticize you on almost anything is extremely low compared to someone with an adult audience. So the validation you get from these sycophantic fans is like, it's put to like a factor of like 13 or something. It's like a crazy increase.
Depending on what type of content they make, some people avoid this. They make videos where they do things outside and they make it social. This isn't the case with a lot of gaming YouTubers and stuff, where there's a higher quantity of these type of allegations. So these people, they spend all their time on the internet. They're quite lonely, they're isolated, they don't have a normal workplace, which would be their second place. And now a lot of people...
Right, and like typically like, so like the way that people typically in real life, or like typical people make friends, like once you're an adult, right? Once you're a legal adult, is going to be college, like education, or your job, right? That's where people make friends. But if you're a YouTuber, typically the friends you have, if you even have them, are going to be online people, unless the content you do is like you have like an office in real life with people you live around that you do content with. But if you're like a solo creator and it's like all your vision and you can work from home, a lot of these people are extremely lonely people and have like no friends. They don't exercise, they don't have roots in real life, they don't spend time with their family for whatever reason. So there's a lot of problems that can come from that, you know? Cause I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo. You ignore making friends at hobbies. I mean, I feel like a lot of adults actually don't have hobbies. Maybe that's just my view being warped because my parents just like work all the time. But I feel like a lot of adults don't, like, especially as you get deeper into adulthood, if you have kids, I feel like these people don't really have hobbies, or even like people they hang out with. Like people who are like really successful in their careers oftentimes don't really have a lot of hobbies, you know? And it's becoming increasingly less common to even have hobbies. I feel like I was thinking about this the other day. If you watch like, I mean, maybe this is just like warped by movies and shit, because I wasn't around in like the 70s and 80s and before that. But you know, when I've talked to like my parents and stuff, when I've talked to like older people I've met, when I like see media about like 70s and 80s, usually what you see is like in a neighborhood, there's like a sense of community, right? So like my dad could probably, on the street he grew up on, he could probably name every single house that he grew up on. He could name every single person. He could name like the parents, the family name at the very least. He could be like, oh, I remember this about them. I remember this about them. Oh, they worked at the fucking hospital. They worked at the coal mines or whatever, right? But I realized like, so I live in a neighborhood now, right? I live in a neighborhood. I live on a street of a bunch of houses, and I don't know like a single neighbor. I met the guy who lives across from me once, and that's it. And the people who live around me don't seem to know each other either. I never see them hanging out. I've never seen a block party happen. I've never seen anything like that. And I live in like a nice white suburb in, you know, New England, where everybody's affluent, right? They seemingly would have some amount of time for hobbies, but that's just not the case. You know, it's not really the case anymore. People don't really do that. It's weird. I'm good friends with my one neighbor. That's cool. I feel like that's kind of rare now. I feel like most of the time I just hear about, you know, in my experience, like every neighborhood is just like, you don't even know your neighbors. You don't even know the people around you. I bought my house and the neighbors are all on talking terms. That's cool. Maybe it's just where I live. Maybe it's just my experience. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. I feel like there is some lack of community in the world now, like in real life anyway. People just get home and sink into their fucking TVs or their PC monitors. Chatted at my hoarder neighbor. Nice. In fairness, I also am not someone who goes out of their way to talk to people. Like, you know, I'm strange. When I see the neighbor outside, I'm like, you know, looking out when I see the neighbor, you know, when I hear something outside, I'm like peering out the window, like, I just don't talk to, you know. I am a YouTuber at the end of the day. To some extent, I fall into the category.
People in general don't have a third place. And then a lot of their social interaction becomes this online social interaction.
I'm going to force you to start a Midwest emo band with your voice. You also have to play keyboard. It's going to work. All right, we'll get right on that.
So what you see with a lot of these cases are these weird-ass online relationships over Discord, over Snapchat.
Terrible idea.
Strange parasocial things going on. They're not going out to the park with a van and some candy like the good old days, back when men were men, back when this country was great. And look, I won't take a stand against like all online relationships. Maybe some good connections, some life-changing things happen from long-distance internet relationships, but I'm quite skeptical of them. I don't think that people well-connected in real-life community with social circles resort to these sort of modes of communication.
That's typically true. Make the book club? Sure. Real soon. Yeah, I would agree with what he's saying. I mean, I think that online relationships can be fine. You know, it can be whatever. But I think a lot of the time, people that are in online relationships, the reason they find each other is because they're spending so much time online that they have very little roots in their real life, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it can be. You know, it can be. I think typically, if you can have, you know, everybody's going to be online to some extent now, but I think typically edging yourself towards having more of a connection to real life and like, you know, just nature and your physical form is good. Because if every single day you spend every single moment, you know, throughout your entire life, like connected to the computer, essentially hooked up through this like virtual uplink system through the back of your fucking neck, like Batman Beyond, you're basically not even a human being. Like if you never inhabit your physical form, then you're not even really here. You're just like a cyborg whose consciousness exists inside of the screen. And that's not a good thing.
The third and final connection, the big boy, the sleeper.
Glad to hear that.
You probably knew it was coming. Gooning and
slipper nippers, to be clear, is what I said.
Pornography addiction. This is the one. This is the main thing I wanted to talk about. When it comes to all these cases, it's easily observable. We have like direct proof of all these online figures having a bad habit. The evidence is there, so how do we explain this connection? Well, the truth is that these three variables I just talked about are also correlated themselves. Isolation, narcissism, antisocial personality traits, and so there's a bit of a chicken or the egg situation going on here. Is it that people who are already messed up in the head will be more likely to consume a lot of this stuff? Or is it that pornography itself had a hand in creating this sort of behavior? That's a hard question. Psychology is a soft science. We don't know everything about the brain, how it all works. And you know, that's a big one. It's like nature or nurture. There are smart people who make points on both sides, but I'm going to take a reasonable sort of compatibilist approach and say that from the get-go, some people will be more or less predisposed to this type of sussy behavior, but exposure to pornography over long horizons of time, especially if it starts in adolescence when a lot of people start watching this stuff, can fully manifest or grow sexual pathology, at which point the gooner now becomes a groomer. You can feel free to disagree. I'm trying to make a different video, take a stance here. You can go watch one of the
I feel like there's some validity to it. I mean, I think that, you know, part of the thing with addiction, right? Part of the thing with addiction, with any addiction, is you have to increasingly up the ante of what you're doing to even feel, you know, the high, right? So like smoking weed, initially, you know, you take one hit, it gets you pretty high. The second time you take one hit, it doesn't get you that high. You have to take 2 hits, and then it's 3 hits, and then it's a joint, and then it's 4 bowls a day, right? And the same thing, you know, happens with gambling. Like initially it's like $5, and then it's like, oh, let's up the ante. It's $10, it's $30. The risk, the idea of reward is like much more captivating to you. So it would stand to reason that with porn addiction, you know, increasingly you are exposing yourself to more and more weird, atypical stuff. Like, you know, maybe it starts with, you know, normal sex, and then it becomes like, you know, BDSM insane sex, and then it becomes like, you know, anal hook sex, and then it becomes like fucking, you know, fart porn or who knows what. And eventually by, you know, increasingly exposing yourself to this shit, by getting more and more degenerate and taboo with what you're into, it can eventually lead you to this kind of thing, is essentially the point he's making, which I think there could be some truth to that for sure. I don't really know the science behind it, but yeah.
The other hundreds of copy-paste drama channels if you don't like it. But I mean, I'll debate people on this. I believe there's ample evidence for such a conclusion. It's very well empirically documented, the type of escalation that online sexual content offers, because it brings endless novelty and it's so easily accessible. Clinical experience and now research evidence are accumulating to suggest that the internet is not simply drawing attention to those with existing pedophilic
Stick to vanilla porn? I mean, ideally just don't watch any of it.
interest, but is contributing.
I never got into weird porn, just more and more to hyper-specific stuff, namely hairy, skinny Indian girls. Bryce, what the fuck are you talking about? Hairy, skinny Indian girls? That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. What? What? Hairy, skinny Indian girls, bro. What are you talking about? What are you saying? What do you mean by that? Wait, did he delete it? Wait, I think it's gone. Oh shit, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to blow up your spot. I just, fair warning, if you say anything in my chat, I might read it. If it's weird or funny or interesting, it might get picked up out of the corner of my eye and I might read it and be like, what's going on? All right. Sorry to blow up your spot, man. I just, it caught my eye and I couldn't believe what I was reading.
Contributing to the crystallization of those interests in people with no explicit prior sexual interest in children. Huh. Well, smack me on the ass and send me on a private jet up to Epstein's Island. Would you look at that? There's also a pretty famous interview from one Ted Bundy that I would like to point you to.
I've lived in prison for a long time now. And I've met a lot of men who were motivated to commit violence just like me. And without exception, every one of them was deeply involved in pornography without question, without exception, deeply influenced and consumed by an addiction to pornography. There's no question about it. The FBI's own study on serial homicide shows that the most common interest among serial killers is pornography.
Now, there are different opinions on this interview. You could say
a master manipulator, even hours before death. What would be the reason to lie about something like that, though? Like, what benefit would he get? Just for fun?
he was just trying to delay his death sentence. But this was like right before he got zapped. I don't know if they already got his ass. I don't know if he was under any illusions that he could escape his fate at that point. But also, he's not a very trustworthy guy, you know what I mean? But on the other hand, he kind of does have a lot of authority in a fucked up way on this particular topic. He actually really is the Mr. Beast of so I don't know. Instead of a bunch of goofy fake psychologists in the comment sections, maybe we could settle this by checking his claims regarding the FBI study and by consulting the doctor who actually gave him the interview. Oh, it's real. It's all real. It's real, man.
What was the quote?
In the interview. Oh.
Bundy was correct in saying that most serial murderers are addicted to hardcore porn. FBI records validate that point. Not every person exposed to obscenity will be a killer, of course, but too many will. If only 5 or 10 people in a nation become serial murderers per year, each killing 28 people, it's too many. Book Life on the Edge by Dr. James Dobson.
Oh, it's real. It's all real. It's real, man. So what do you learn from this? If you're a kid or if you're a parent, you should look out for these things. Obviously, narcissism, psychopathic personality traits.
Yeah, I mean, limit internet access for kids for sure. I do like the fact that I think it was Texas or Arkansas or North Dakota, one of those. I want to say it was Texas though. It seems like a Texas thing. I think there's some law now that they have where if you are of like under a certain age, you can't access porn sites. I'm not sure how they exactly enforce that. I would imagine it's probably ID verification, but how does porn make you a murderer? That's not the point that he made. I don't think you're understanding it at all. But keep gooning. But I believe there is now a law. It's North Carolina. I swear it was Texas. Whatever the case. There is, basically they're trying to make it so that you need to be age verified to have access to pornography, which I think is good. I don't think you should be looking at porn if you're under a certain age. I think it will warp your perspective on sex and a lot of other things in general.
People who are isolated without community.
Like, the point of this video, if you're watching it, is not... The point he's making is not if you watch porn, you will become a serial killer. It's that porn can increasingly desensitize you to more and more depraved things. That's what he's saying.
And people who seem to have an interest in pornography. If you don't look at that and your alarm bells don't go off, your system is not properly calibrated. It's highly suspicious behavior. And this is well documented. I got suspicious of Drake before the beef. I got suspicious when he posted hentai on his public Instagram story. That's weird. But if I'm gonna say something else, it's also important to understand that in another universe, you could maybe be one of these people. Basically, you have to have the self-awareness to understand that you are capable of such evil. And the people who lack this kind of self-awareness, no, I would never do that. That's like just other people. These are the types that you actually have to be scared of, because they're not able to actually look at their shadow. Even if in truth you're the type of person who would never do the things these people did, you still want to be self-aware about it. Because in general, if you look at all these cases, these people's situations are not enviable. So you want to avoid that. You want to avoid these things.
I think another point he's making that's interesting is like, a lot of these people were not always destined to groom a kid. Like, it's not like they woke up one day and were like, I'm going to go groom a child. It doesn't make what they did any less bad, but trying to understand it is an important part of presenting it in the future, you know?
3 things. When it comes to narcissistic personality traits, my opinion is that if you're able to be aware of something in your mind, it implies some sort of authority to change it. Otherwise, our life is just a hell, and consciousness is a misstep in evolution where we witness all of these terrible character defects and have no power to change. Second thing, I know a lot of kids want to be YouTubers and stuff, but you look at a lot of these people, they're miserable and they do all this shit.
You can feel bad for the child in them that was abused, but hate them for the crimes they committed. But the thing is, none of these people, to our knowledge, were abused, right? None of these people, to our knowledge, were like, because like typically you think about pedophilia as in like, you know, repeating the cycle of abuse, where like, you know, someone grooms a kid grows up, identifies the abuser, grooms another kid, just repeat the cycle, right? But with this case, like, that is not what's happening. You know, it's not that cut and dry, straightforward, seemingly.
The internet should never become your life. It should not be a big part of your life. It should definitely not be your whole life. It needs to be handled with a lot of care. Our brains are not prepared for a lot of it. You need to have firm roots in the real world. And if you're able to use the internet in a social way, in a way that's not just genic, you have to think about that a lot. If you plan to do this, it's a tightrope to walk. And finally, never goon. It's not a good idea. It's not healthy. Don't listen to anyone telling you otherwise. I will debate anybody. Go fuck yourself. Oh wait, you already do. That's why you're coping. Everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. Peace out.
Damn. That's probably the best Gerbert Johnson video I've seen. Damn, that was a good fucking video. Yeah, I think he's right. I mean, the point he's making, to be clear, is not that every single person who jerks off to porn is going to become a serial killer or a pedophile. And if that is the conclusion you came away with, you are either too stupid to understand what he's saying, or maybe there's something else going on with you. The point he's making is just that, like, increasingly desensitizing yourself to, like, depraved material can edge you, so to speak, closer to, you know, immoral behavior. I think that's a good point. Really good video. Damn. God damn. Good fucking video. Thanks for the 10, Charlie. Appreciate it, bro. Thanks for calling out Doc and pointing out that groom minors often don't realize something wrong was done to them. It's wrong to demand they come forward to the public. As far as revealing their identity, yes, it is wrong. Anyhow, with that being said, speak of the devil, I've been live for 6 hours, so, well, almost 6, but I gotta go piss, make dinner, get some stuff done. But it's been a good stream. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys liked it. Leave a like if you liked it. Leave a dislike if you disliked it. Become a member if you want to see the full VODs. And subscribe to Turkey Tom, Tom Dark Live, and Tom IRL. Follow me at UnOnBird on Twitter. If the merch came in, and tag me on Instagram so I can repost it on my story. Appreciate everyone who bought it. It should be arriving at all of your houses within the next couple of days if you haven't got it yet. And if by some chance you didn't get the merch for some reason, and you did order it, shoot an email to the support email on the website. Just contact my merch guy through there, and he'll help you get it taken care of. Just make sure to include like info, like receipt and stuff like that. But I think everybody should be getting it. All right, thanks for watching. Have fun. Be safe. Bye-bye. Goodbye, buddy.